The first time I saw the room with my name on it, there was a dead man hanging from the chandelier outside. I didn't scream. I couldn't. My body had forgotten how. I stood frozen at the end of the corridor, staring at the golden letters carved into the black wooden door. Serafina Vale. My name. Below it was a second line. Do not open. Behind me, somewhere deep inside the mansion, a grandfather clock struck midnight. 1, 2, 3. The sound echoed through the empty hallway. I turned around. The corridor was completely deserted. No guards, no servants, no footsteps, only the dead man hanging from the chandelier at the opposite end. His face was covered. His expensive black suit was soaked with blood, and pinned to his chest was a small white card. I took one step toward him. Then I heard a voice behind me. You're not supposed to be here. I spun around. Cassian Vare stood at the end of the corridor. The Mafia boss. The man who had forced me into his mansion 6 days earlier. He wore a black shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. His dark hair was slightly disordered. His hands were stained with blood. And his eyes were fixed on the door bearing my name. For the first time since I'd met him, Cassian looked afraid. Not angry, not surprised. Afraid. He walked toward me slowly. Serafina. I couldn't move. Why is my name on that door? He stopped. Who opened it? I didn't. Then who? I don't know. His eyes moved toward the dead man. Then back to me. Did you see anything? No. Did you hear anything? No. He stepped closer. Did anyone speak to you? I shook my head. Cassian looked at the door again. Then he did something I never expected. He pulled me behind him. Stay here. What is happening? He didn't answer. Instead, he reached the door. I grabbed his arm. Wait. He looked at me. What? Why is my name on it? His jaw tightened. I don't know. It was the first lie he had ever told me, and I knew it immediately, because 6 days earlier, when Cassian Vare forced me into his mansion, he had promised me one thing. He would never lie to me. I had believed him. I shouldn't have. 6 days earlier, my life had been completely different. I was working at a small antique bookstore on the edge of the city. I had never met Cassian Vare. I had never seen his mansion. I had never held a gun. I had never been followed by armed men. And I certainly had never imagined that a Mafia boss would walk into my workplace and tell me that I was coming home with him. It happened on a rainy Tuesday evening. The bookstore was almost empty. I was closing the register when the bell above the door rang. I looked up. 3 men entered, all dressed in black. They didn't look like customers. The tallest one walked toward me. Serafina Vale? Yes. You're coming with us. I laughed. Excuse me? He didn't smile. Mr. Vare is waiting. I don't know anyone named Vare. You will. I reached for my phone. The man placed a hand on the counter. Don't. Are you threatening me? No. He glanced toward the window. We're warning you. Then I saw the black cars outside. 4 of them. All expensive. All waiting. And standing beside the final car was a man who made everyone around him look insignificant. Cassian Vare. He wasn't dressed like a criminal. He wore a charcoal suit. No tie. A silver watch. A dark ring on his right hand. He looked like the owner of a billion-dollar company. Maybe he was. The newspapers called him a businessman. People in the city called him something else. The Phantom King. A man whose enemies vanished without a trace. A man whose name was never spoken loudly. A man who supposedly controlled half the city's underground. He walked into the bookstore. Everyone around him became silent. His eyes found mine immediately. He studied me for several seconds. Then he said, Serafina. I stepped backward. How do you know my name? I know everything I need to know. Who are you? Cassian Vare. I had heard that name. Everyone had. I swallowed. Why are you here? To take you somewhere safe. I don't need protection. You do. From whom? He looked toward the windows. Everyone. I shook my head. I'm calling the police. His expression didn't change. You can. Then I will. He stepped closer. But before you do, You should know that the police station you're planning to call has already been paid by the people hunting you. My phone suddenly felt useless in my hand. What do they want from me? Nothing. Then why are they hunting me? Because they think you have something. What? I don't know. You expect me to believe that? No. He took a small envelope from his pocket. Inside was an old photograph. I looked at it. A woman stood beside a little girl. The girl was me. My breath caught. The photograph had been taken when I was 7. My mother was standing behind me, but there was someone else in the background. A teenage boy. I didn't recognize him. Cashin pointed at him. That's me. I looked at him. What? I was there. Where? At your house. My heart started pounding. You knew my family? Your father saved my life. I stared at him. My father died when I was 12. I know. He was a banker. Cashin's eyes darkened. That's what everyone was told. What does that mean? It means your father wasn't a banker. My world seemed to tilt. What was he? Cashin didn't answer. Instead, he said, You're in danger. And you can protect me? Yes. Why? Because I owe your father a debt. I don't want your protection. I know. He stepped closer. But you don't have a choice. That night, I was taken to his mansion. It wasn't a mansion. It was a fortress. Black iron gates, private guards, security cameras, stone walls, a long driveway surrounded by dark trees. The house itself looked like something from another century. Beautiful, cold, unwelcoming. Cashin led me inside. You're staying here. For how long? Until it's safe. And when will that be? He looked at me. I don't know. Then I'm a prisoner. No. What's the difference? A prisoner isn't protected. I glared at him. You kidnapped me. I saved you. You forced me. I know. I hate you. Something changed in his eyes. I know. He turned away, then stopped. You'll have everything you need. I want to go home. I know. Then let me. I can't. Why? He looked over his shoulder. Because the people who killed your father have finally found you. I froze. My father wasn't killed. Cashin said nothing. I whispered, Was he? He walked away. That was when I realized a man who had brought me here knew far more about my family than he was willing to admit. The first few days were unbearable. I wasn't allowed outside without security. I wasn't allowed to use my old phone. I wasn't allowed to leave the property. But Cashin never treated me cruelly. That was almost worse. He gave me a room larger than my entire apartment. He had my favorite books brought in. He arranged for my favorite foods. He even remembered that I hated roses and preferred lilies. I couldn't understand how a man who claimed to barely know me could know so much. One evening, I confronted him. You've been studying me. He looked up from his papers. Yes. Why? Because I needed to know what you liked. Why? So I could make this place less frightening. I stared at him. You kidnapped me. I know. And now you're trying to make me comfortable? Yes. That's insane. Probably. I almost smiled. Then I remembered who he was. Why do you care? His eyes met mine. Because I promised your father. What did you promise him? He went silent. Tell me. I can't. Why? Because if I tell you, you won't trust me. I whispered. I already don't. He looked hurt. That surprised me. The next morning, I found something strange. A servant had left fresh flowers outside my bedroom. Lilies. Beside them was a note. Don't trust the man who brought you here. I looked around. Nobody was there. I took the note to Cashin. He read it. His expression became cold. Who has access to your room? I don't know. Did anyone speak to you? No. He folded the note. Stay in your room. No. Serafina. Stop ordering me around. He stared at me, then quietly said, Someone inside this house wants you dead. That silenced me. Who? I don't know. You keep saying that. Because it's true. Then why am I here? Because this is the only place I can guarantee your survival. Unless the person trying to kill me is already inside. Cashin didn't answer. I knew I had touched something important. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 2 in the morning, I heard footsteps. I opened my door. The hallway was dark. A figure disappeared around the corner. I followed. The footsteps stopped near the west wing. I had never been allowed there. A large black door stood at the end of the corridor. I heard someone whisper, "She must never know." Then silence. I moved closer. The door opened slightly. I pushed it. It was locked, but something was scratched into the wood. A single word. Vale, my family name. I stepped backward. Then someone grabbed my wrist. I almost screamed. Cashin. He pulled me away from the door. "What are you doing here?" I heard someone. "You shouldn't have followed." "What is this room?" "Nothing." "Liar." His expression hardened. "Go back to your room." "Why is my family's name on the door?" He didn't answer. "What's inside?" "Nothing you need to see." "Then open it." "No." "Why?" "Because you're not ready." "For what?" His eyes darkened. "The truth." I stared at him. "What truth?" He whispered, "Your father." Then he walked away. I couldn't sleep. The next morning, Cashin left the mansion for a meeting. That was when I decided to investigate. I found an old key inside the library. It had a strange symbol carved into it, a black raven. The same symbol appeared on the locked door. My hands trembled. I returned to the west wing. The key fit. The lock clicked. I pushed the door open, and my entire world collapsed. The room wasn't a storage room. It was a shrine. Photographs covered the walls. Hundreds of them. My childhood. My mother. My father. Me. Every birthday. Every school event. Every family vacation. Pictures I had never seen. Pictures taken from a distance. Someone had been watching my family for years. In the center of the room stood a large desk. On it was a file. My name was written across the cover. Serafina Vale, Project Eclipse. I opened it. The first page contained my birth certificate. The second contained my father's financial records. The third contained a photograph of Cashin as a teenager. Then I found something that made my hands go numb. A letter written by my father, addressed to Cashin. "If anything happens to me, keep Serafina away from the Vare family. She must never know what I discovered." I read the sentence again. Then again, a sound came from behind me. I turned. Cashin stood in the doorway. His face was pale. "Put the file down." I couldn't move. "You lied to me." He stepped inside. "Serafina, you said my father saved your life." "He did." "You said you owed him a debt." "I do." "Then why does this file exist?" He said nothing. I held up the letter. What did my father discover? Cashin's jaw tightened. "Everything." "What does that mean?" "My father wasn't the head of the organization." I stared at him. "Then who was—" Cashin looked at the photographs. "Your father." Silence. I shook my head. "No." "Yes." My father was a banker. He was an accountant for the most powerful criminal organization in the country. I felt dizzy. "You're lying." "I wish I were." "Why did he leave?" "Because he discovered what they were doing." "What?" "Human trafficking, weapons, political assassinations, financial crimes." I covered my mouth. "And you?" "I was raised inside it." "Then why did my father save you?" "Because he realized I wasn't like them." Cashin walked toward me. "He planned to get me out." "But he died." "Yes." "Who killed him?" Cashin looked at me. "My father." I couldn't breathe. "Your father?" "He discovered what your father knew." "Then why are you protecting me?" "Because your father died protecting me." I shook my head. "There's more." Cashin went silent. "There's always more." He closed his eyes, then said, "Your father left something behind." "What?" "A list." "What list?" "The names of everyone who helped destroy my family." "Where is it?" Cashin looked toward the wall. "Your father never trusted computers." I understood. "The room." He nodded. "The locked room was built for one reason." "What reason?" "To protect the evidence." I looked around. Then why put my name on the door? His expression changed. Because your father told me that only you could open it. My heart stopped. Why me? Because he left the final key with you. I don't have a key. You do. I remembered something. A necklace my father had given me when I was a child. I'd worn it for years. I pulled it from beneath my shirt. There was a tiny black pendant. Cashin stared at it. That's it. I opened the pendant. Inside was a microscopic key, the same raven symbol. My father had hidden the key around my neck for 16 years. Cashin whispered. He knew they'd come for you. Who? Everyone. Suddenly, the mansion lights went out. A siren began screaming. Cashin immediately grabbed my hand. Stay with me? What happened? The security system has been disabled. By whom? He looked toward the corridor. Someone inside. We ran. The mansion erupted into chaos. Guards shouted. Doors slammed. Gunshots echoed from downstairs. Cashin pulled me into a hidden passage. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. I don't think anywhere is safe anymore. He looked at me. You're right. Then he stopped. There's only one place they won't search. Where? He looked at the locked room. I understood. The room with my name. He unlocked it. We entered. The door closed behind us. For the first time, I saw the real reason Cashin had kept me in the mansion. The room wasn't just a hiding place. It contained evidence proving that Cashin's father had betrayed both families. The man who had ordered my father's death had also ordered the murder of Cashin's family. And Cashin had spent years believing the enemy was someone else. The final document revealed the truth. The person responsible wasn't Cashin's father. It wasn't my father. It wasn't even Marco Vare. It was someone much closer. Someone who had been beside Cashin from the beginning. His most trusted advisor. His godfather. The man who had helped raise him. Elias Vare. Cashin stared at the document. No. I touched his arm. Cashin. He shook his head. He was the only person I trusted. The door suddenly locked from the outside. A voice came through the speakers. Hello, Cashin. Cashin froze. Elias. I wondered how long it would take you to find the room. Cashin moved toward the door. Elias. The voice laughed. You were always clever. Let her go. She's the reason I couldn't finish this years ago. What do you want? The key. Cashin looked at me. The pen was still around my neck. Elias continued. Your father hid the evidence because he knew you would eventually come looking. Cashin's voice became cold. You killed him? Yes. You killed her father? Yes. Why? Power. Silence. Then Elias said, and now I want yours. The room began filling with smoke. Cashin grabbed my hand. There's another exit. Where? Under the desk. We moved quickly. He opened a hidden panel. A narrow tunnel appeared. We crawled through. Behind us, smoke filled the room. We emerged beneath the mansion. Cashin's security team was waiting. The final confrontation happened in the courtyard. Elias tried to escape. Cashin confronted him. For years, Cashin had imagined this moment. But when he finally had the chance to kill the man responsible for destroying his family, he lowered his weapon. You took everything from me. Elias smiled. Then take everything from me. Cashin shook his head. No. He looked toward the police vehicles approaching. I want you alive. Elias's smile disappeared. Why? Because I want you to live long enough to watch everything you built disappear. Elias was arrested. The evidence in the locked room exposed the entire conspiracy. My father's name was cleared. Cashin finally learned the truth about his family, and I finally understood why he had chosen me. He hadn't brought me to his mansion because he wanted a secretary. He hadn't even brought me there simply to protect me. He had brought me there because my father had left one final message. Protect my daughter until she discovers the truth. Months later, the West Wing remained locked. I asked Cashin why. He looked at me. Because some secret should stay buried. What about my room? He smiled. That's not a secret anymore. I laughed. You know, you could have told me all of this instead of forcing me into your mansion. I know. You kidnapped me. I know. You lied to me. I know. You were extremely annoying. He smiled. I know. The words came out softer than I intended, but Cashin heard them. He always did. He stood only a few feet away from me in the center of the library, surrounded by the same walls that had once made me feel like I was trapped inside someone else's world. The fire in the fireplace had burned low. Outside, rain tapped gently against the enormous windows. For once, there were no guards rushing through the halls, no phones ringing, no gunshots, no footsteps coming toward us. The war was over. Elias was gone. The evidence had been exposed. My father's name had finally been cleared. And yet, somehow, the hardest conversation was still waiting for us. Cashin looked at me. I know. I stared at him. You lied to me. I know. You told me you didn't know why my name was on that door. His jaw tightened. I know. You knew. Yes. You knew my father. Yes. You knew about the locked room. Yes. You knew people were hunting me long before I even knew there was a reason to be afraid. His eyes lowered. Yes. I laughed bitterly. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? The truth. He was silent. I stepped closer. You always do that. Do what? Go quiet when something matters. He didn't answer. You think silence protects people. His expression changed. Sometimes it does. No. I shook my head. Sometimes silence only makes people feel more alone. That hit him. I saw it in his eyes. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he finally spoke. I was afraid. I froze. Cashinver, the man everyone in the city feared. The man who had faced guns without blinking. The man who had walked into rooms filled with enemies and made them lower their weapons. He was afraid. Of what? He looked at me. Of losing you. My anger weakened. But you already had me. No. His voice was quiet. I had your location. Your protection. Your father's promise. He took a breath. But I never had you. I stared at him. What does that mean? It means you were here because you had no choice. He looked toward the massive doors leading outside. I knew that every day. I hadn't expected that. He continued. You woke up in this mansion surrounded by people you didn't know. You hated the guards. I know. You hated the cameras. I know. You hated me. He smiled faintly. You made that very clear. Despite myself, I almost smiled. Then I remembered everything. You were extremely annoying. He actually laughed. I know. You gave me orders. I know. You decided when I could leave. I know. You changed my entire life without asking me. His smile disappeared. I know. I crossed my arms. And you expected me to forgive you? No. The answer was immediate. I looked at him. No. No. He stepped closer. I don't deserve automatic forgiveness. I didn't say anything, but I would spend the rest of my life earning it. My heart tightened. He wasn't defending himself. He wasn't making excuses. For the first time, Cashin was simply admitting what he had done. I thought you were controlling me. I blinked. He continued that and trolled where you went. Who could reach you? What information reached you? Why? Because I knew the people hunting you were already inside the police, inside the financial system, inside organizations I couldn't trust. He looked at me, and I couldn't risk you becoming their target before I understood what your father had left behind. I whispered, so I really was a prisoner. His eyes filled with regret. For a while, that honesty hurt more than another lie would have, but I was also protecting you. I know. He looked surprised. I lowered my eyes. I know now. Silence filled the room. Then I said, you were extremely annoying. He smiled again. I know. I shook my head. You really don't know how to say anything else, do you? I've learned that arguing with you is dangerous. I laughed softly. You're finally learning. His smile widened. Then the laughter disappeared, because there was still something between us. Something neither of us had said. I looked around the mansion, the enormous staircase, the library, the dining room where I had sat alone during my first nights, the hallway where I had followed the mysterious footsteps, the west wing, the locked room. Everything had changed, but the walls were still the same. I remembered the first night I arrived. I had stood at the entrance with tears in my eyes. I had looked at Cashin and told him I hated him, and he had simply said, "I know." Back then, I thought he was cold. Now I understood. He knew I hated him, and he accepted it. He didn't demand affection. He didn't demand gratitude. He only demanded that I survive. I looked at him, and yet I'm still here. Cashin's expression softened. He didn't smile this time. Instead, he looked at me as if he was afraid to believe what he had just heard. Why? I looked away. I needed to answer honestly, because I had asked myself that question every night. Why stay? The gates were open now. The guards were no longer stopping me. My father's name was cleared. The danger was gone. I could leave. I could walk out of the mansion. I could return to the life I had before all of this. But the thought didn't feel like freedom anymore. It felt like losing something. I looked back at him. When I first came here, I wanted nothing more than to leave. I know. I hated this place. I know. I hated the locked doors. I know. I hated the guards. I know. I hated you. His eyes softened. I know. But then something changed. He waited. I started noticing things. What things? The little things. His eyebrows lifted slightly. Like what? You remember that I don't like roses. A small smile appeared on his face. You like lilies. You remember my favorite books. I had them brought here. You remember how I take my coffee. You drink it without sugar. I smiled, and you always pretended you didn't care. He looked away. I cared. Exactly. I stepped closer. You cared about everything. He looked back at me, even when I didn't want you to. I swallowed, and when I thought everyone had abandoned me, my voice trembled. You were there. Cashin didn't move. You didn't know how to comfort me. I still don't. You were terrible at it. I know. I smiled through my tears. But you stayed. His expression softened. When I thought I had lost everything, I reached for his hand. You gave me somewhere to belong. Cashin's fingers slowly closed around mine. He looked down at our hands, then back at me. I brought you here because I promised your father. I nodded. I know. But that's not why I want you to stay. My heart skipped. Then why? He stepped closer. Because now there is no promise. His thumb gently brushed over my hand. No debt. Another step. No obligation. Another. No danger forcing you to remain. He looked directly into my eyes. Nothing. I whispered. Then why? He took a breath. Because now. His voice became softer. I would choose you. My eyes filled with tears. He continued. Even if your father had never asked me. He squeezed my hand. Even if there had never been a locked room. His eyes never left mine. Even if I had never owed your family anything. He leaned closer. I would still choose you. I couldn't speak. He continued. Because somewhere between protecting you, he smiled faintly, and arguing with you, I laughed through my tears. And listening to you tell me how terrible I am, which you are, I know. We both laughed. Then his expression became serious again. Somewhere between all of that, he lifted my hand. You became the person I wanted beside me. My heart broke open. You don't have to stay because you're afraid to leave. I know. You don't have to stay because my mansion is safer. I know. You don't have to stay because your father asked me to protect you. I know. He stepped even closer. You can leave. I looked at him. The gates are open. I know. You can go back to your old life. I know. You can forget me. I smiled sadly. I don't think I can. His eyes closed for a second. When he opened them again, something had changed. Relief. Pure relief. I whispered, and that's the problem. What? I don't want to forget you. He gently touched my cheek. You don't have to. I leaned into his hand. For the first time, his touch didn't feel like control. It felt like a question, and I was giving him my answer. I stepped closer. I choose to stay. He stared at me. Are you sure? Yes, Serafina. I'm sure. He didn't move. Why? I smiled, because when I thought I had lost everything, you gave me somewhere to belong. His eyes became glassy. And now, I looked around the mansion, then at him. Now I know that home isn't a building. I touched his chest. It's a person. He covered my hand with his. You're sure you want that person to be me? I smiled. I've made worse decisions. He laughed softly. That's cruel. You'll survive? I probably will. We stood there for a moment. No words. No secrets. No lies. Just two people who had somehow survived everything that had been designed to destroy them. Then I looked toward the west wing. The locked room. Cashin followed my gaze. What about it? It changed my life. He nodded. It changed mine, too. I thought I was going there to discover who my father really was. You did. I thought I would discover the monster who destroyed my family. You did. I looked at him, but I also discovered something I never expected. What? The man I feared. I paused. Was never the monster I thought he was. Cashin looked away. I've done terrible things. I know. I've hurt people. I know. I've made decisions you might never understand. I know. He looked back at me. Then why aren't you afraid? I smiled. Because I know the difference between a man who enjoys darkness. I squeezed his hand. And a man who survives inside it without becoming it. He said nothing. His eyes became distant. I knew he was thinking about everything he had lost. His family, his childhood, his innocence, his father, his years of revenge, his years of believing he had no choice. I stepped closer. You don't have to be the man your family wanted you to become. He looked at me. Who should I be? Whoever you choose. A faint smile appeared. I choose you. I smiled. And I choose you. For the first time, Cashin pulled me into his arms. Not forcefully, not possessively, carefully, as though he was still giving me the opportunity to change my mind. I wrapped my arms around him. His heartbeat was steady beneath my cheek. And strangely, that was the sound that finally made the mansion feel like home. I closed my eyes. The first time I entered this house, I had been terrified. I had believed every hallway contained threat. Every locked door contained secret. Every shadow hid an enemy. But now I understood something. The mansion hadn't changed. I had. I no longer saw only the darkness. I saw the library where Cashin had quietly left my favorite books. The dining room where he had pretended not to notice when I refused to eat. The hallway where he had stood outside my door every night when danger was near. The garden where I had finally laughed after weeks of fear. And the locked room, the room that had destroyed every lie I had believed about my family. That room had shown me the truth. My father had trusted Cashin. Cashin had kept his promise. And somewhere along the way, a promise had become something far more dangerous. Love. I pulled back slightly. One more thing. Cashin looked at me. What? You were still annoying. He laughed. I know. You were arrogant. I know. Stubborn. I know. Secretive. I know. And impossible. He smiled. I know. I narrowed my eyes. Stop saying that. He leaned closer. Why? Because it makes you impossible to argue with. Then I suppose I'll keep saying it. I laughed. For the first time, there was no fear behind it. No sadness. No uncertainty. Just happiness. Outside, the rain stopped. A faint light appeared beyond the windows. Morning was coming. A new beginning. I looked toward the city. The same city that had once whispered Cashin Vare's name with fear. The same city that had once destroyed my family. The same city that had forced us into each other's lives. But I no longer cared what the city thought, because I knew the truth. Cashin Vare had spent his entire life surrounded by secrets, violence, betrayal, and death. He had inherited an empire built on fear. He had fought monsters. He had lost people he loved. He had learned never to trust anyone. And yet, when my father asked him to protect me, he kept the promise. Even when I hated him, even when I fought him, even when I believed he was the enemy, he never abandoned me. And eventually I understood why. I hadn't been brought to his mansion simply because I was in danger. I had been brought there because my father had trusted Cashin with his greatest secret, his daughter, and perhaps with his greatest hope. I entered that mansion as a prisoner. I entered the locked room searching for answers. I found the truth about my family. I found the man who betrayed us. I found the secret that had destroyed generations. But I also found something I never knew I was looking for. A home, a family, a future, and him. Cashin looked at me. Ready? For what? Whatever comes next. I smiled. With you? He nodded. With me? I took his hand. Then yes. And together, we walked toward the windows as the first light of morning entered the mansion. The darkness was finally behind us. The secrets had been exposed. The past could no longer control us. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't running from somewhere. I was walking toward something. Toward him. Toward us. Toward a life neither of us had planned. Because sometimes the person who enters your life as your greatest fear becomes the person who teaches you what safety feels like. Sometimes the place you desperately want to escape becomes a place where you finally stop running. And sometimes the most dangerous place in the world is also where you finally discover where you belong. I looked at Cashin one last time. He smiled. And this time, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be.